They say history is a slow river. Conspiracists say it's a pipeline, planned, pressurized, inevitable. What if, beneath the surface of Europe's last century, a hidden valve has been turning all along? In this episode, we test a volatile idea. The Kalergi Plan is widely debunked as a racist fiction. But Parallel asks what-if questions to expose deeper truths. So we'll do two things at once. First, the record. What actually exists, what was written, and what was invented. And then the thought experiment. If a plan like this were real, what forces would power it? Who would benefit? And what would it do to identity, democracy, and meaning? Welcome to Parallel, a mix of storytelling and thought-provoking what-if scenarios, combining narrative fiction and analysis that includes real-world science, philosophy, and potential real-world implications. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment so that you do not miss out on the next episode. Because, one reality, says T-Boom, is never enough.
I stand at a railway platform that has carried Europe through wars, unions, and promises. Trains arrive with faces and accents from everywhere, the tannoy folding languages into a warm mechanical hush. A child looks up, asks me in the accented English of cartoons and courtyards, "Where are we from?" I start to answer with a place, then a map, then a century. None of it lands. The platform clock blinks. My phone glows with headlines and hashtags: replacement, invasion, destiny. I breathe. We have always been a braided rope. Celts, Romans, Moors, Slavs, traders, refugees, lovers. No rope is pure fiber, it's strength in the twist. But fear wants straight lines. Fear wants a villain you can photograph, a plan you can print out, a knob to turn the river backward. The train doors open. Do we step into an arranged future, or the same old human tide wearing a new coat? I take the child's hand. We're from people, I say. And people move.
The history. Here is the ground truth. The Kalergi Plan is not a policy or a discovered archive. It is a modern conspiracy theory. It attaches itself to Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi, 1894-1972, a cosmopolitan thinker and founder of the Pan-European movement, and misreads passages from his 1925 book, Practical Idealism. Decades after his death, far-right writers excerpted and twisted those lines to claim a program for replacing white Europeans via immigration and a supposed Jewish elite. There is no evidence of a formal plan, no EU blueprint, no secret memorandum. It's a narrative grafted onto disparate demographic facts and political anxieties. Fact-checkers and anti-extremism researchers repeatedly document the myth's genealogy. Late 20th to early 21st century neo-Nazi and white nationalist circles popularized the label, using it as a Europeanized frame for white genocide or the Great Replacement rhetoric. The claims rest on selective quotation and mistranslation rather than policy records. Kalergi himself advocated a federated Europe after the carnage of World War I, an elite-led but anti-war project to bind states together, not an ethnic purge. Whatever one thinks of his elitism, the plan as conspiracy is an after-the-fact invention. The social science. Demography is not destiny, it's arithmetic under conditions. Europe today experiences low fertility, high longevity, and uneven labor demand. In many member states, deaths outnumber births. Net migration offsets that decline and fills skill gaps. That doesn't require a conductor with a master score. Only economics, opportunity gradients, and human decisions. Population science differentiates between composition change, such as age, origin, and education, and identity change, which is cultural and negotiated. Genetics tells us human variation is clinal, not carved into sealed boxes. Most ancestry is mixed over time. Identity behaves more like language than blood, adopted, adapted, contagious. The replacement metaphor treats people as interchangeable blocks, rather than social beings who influence and are influenced by the places they join. that metaphor is also morally loaded, reducing births, marriages, and migrations to pure machinery. Information science adds a darker law. If a complex, diffuse process lacks a single author, the internet will invent one. Conspiracy is the story form we reach for when patience with complexity runs out. Now the uncomfortable part of the game. Suppose the Kalergi Plan were real, not a meme, but a century-long strategy to dissolve ethnic boundaries in Europe via controlled migration, intermarriage, and a supranational elite's incentives. How would it actually work? First, the mechanisms. Not open borders. That's too obvious and politically unsustainable. Instead, a ratcheting mix. Labor market visas targeted to shortages. Educational exchanges with residency pathways. Humanitarian corridors that are restrictive on paper but permissive in practice. Tax incentives in cities that need population. Media narratives framing cosmopolitanism as prestige and rootedness as parochial. Bureaucracy, not banners. Anonymous tools, zoning, credential recognition, bilateral agreements would do the quiet work. Secondly, plausible deniability. You never write the plan. You let disaggregated agencies pursue aligned goals. Pension solvency, GDP growth, skills pipelines, care work staffing. Each decision is defensible on its own terms. The plan is emergent, produced by incentives set decades earlier. Thirdly, cultural engineering. You don't ban old identities, you flood the symbolic market with hybrid ones. School curricula emphasize shared European tragedies and triumphs. Pop culture celebrates mixed heritage protagonists. Holidays converge around civic rituals, Remembrance, Earth Day, the Champions League, while local saints become local festivals, not political boundaries. And fourthly, risk management. Every strategy spawns a counter-strategy. A real plan would predict backlash, nationalist parties, border walls, cultural revanchism. It would anticipate flight to sameness and buy down risk with visible control gestures. Border operations, repatriation flights, asylum accelerators, signaling to anxious publics that the state still operates the valves. The likely outcome of this? Not a uniform beige humanity, but metropolitan mosaics. London-style global cities anchored by provincial regions that remain more homogeneous, intensifying urban-rural polarization. Democracy becomes a constant negotiation over pace and narrative. What's happening now? Here are the non-speculative patterns. The European Union's population hit a record 450 million recently, driven not by a baby boom, but by net migration offsetting a natural decrease. Several countries face acute aging and shrinking workforces. Without inward migration, their populations would fall faster, their pension systems strain more, and certain sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, construction, and care would seize up. These are structural forces, not secret ones. Regionally, growth concentrates in urban areas while many rural regions lose people. Policy debates oscillate between attracting skills and enforcing borders, with the same paradox everywhere. Economies ask for workers, and politics punishes the visible arrival of strangers. Who benefits and who loses from this type of plan? If a real plan existed, winners would include the following: aging economies gaining taxpayers and care workers, global cities monetizing diversity through innovation and networks, and individuals who cross borders for safety or opportunity, and their children who accrue bilingual and bicultural advantage. Losers, or those who feel like losers, would include low-wage incumbents who face wage competition without inclusive labor policy, regions of emigration losing young talent, and cultural conservatives who experience rapid change as unchosen and unaccountable. But the largest hidden loser would be truth. especially if fear hardens fiction into dogma and policy is built on a counterfeit plan, rather than measurable trends. Now, what about the wider societal impact? Operating society by conspiracy, for or against, is corrosive. If people believe the future is secretly arranged, they disengage or they radicalize. Democratic legitimacy depends on decisions being contestable, reversible, and explainable. Mystifying change with a villainous blueprint breeds tribalism. Explaining change with data, stories, and civic choice breeds responsibility. There's also a deeper ethical question. What do we owe to strangers? Most European ethical traditions, from Christian hospitality to cosmopolitan humanism, say more than nothing. The replacement frame refracts fear into arithmetic. The human frame asks about dignity, reciprocity, and the common good. The task is to keep migration a matter of policy and principle, not mythology. If there were a Kalergi Plan, its power wouldn't lie in ships or statutes, but in story. The stories nations tell about who they are. Most who cross borders seek safety, dignity, or a better life. But migration is never perfect. Some arrive wanting the benefits of a new land without its responsibilities, trying to remake their host in the image of what they left behind. Governments owe their citizens protection from that. Openness means nothing without order. A nation that cannot defend its culture cannot preserve its compassion. Integration must be earned through respect, not demanded through guilt. Welcoming should be generous but conditional. Those who wish to belong must carry part of the weight of belonging. So, for any country facing an immigration backlash today, its future isn't a secret pipeline, but a confluence. People meeting, mixing, and remaking each other. Shaping a nation's future will take courage, honesty, and laws that defend both kindness and coherence. Not a hidden plan, a public one. Thank you so much for listening in to this episode of Parallel. If you have an idea for a future episode, drop it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel grow its audience. Until the next episode, remember, one reality is never enough.